The Big Small Business Show is made possible by the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. Develop, influence, lead. And MTN Business. Your success is our passion.
Nic Read founded SalesLabs in 1997, and at the time it was based on sales approaches created in 1963. This was clearly a winning recipe, as SalesLabs has audited figures of having improved the income of clients in more than 40 countries, amounting to more than $22 billion. Clearly they are onto something. Nic authored more than 20 papers and books and has been awarded many a time, but one of the highlights is the gold winner's statue for World's Best Sales Trainer, and the New York Post calls these statues the Oscars of the business world. Nic, welcome into studio.
It's good to be here, thank you.
And I know, Alon, you're probably dying to ask this first question, so I'll let you do it. You go ahead.
Thanks, Candy. You know, for me, I look at salespeople, and really, in your experience, are the ones that have the gift of the gab and the big smile the ones that do the best sales, or are the ones that follow a process better salespeople?
Having the gift of the gab certainly gets you in the door. You have to have personality in sales. There's absolutely truth to that. But you know, an interesting thing is that salespeople who plan their approach and they know exactly where they are in a meeting, where they want to get to next, they tend to achieve more than salespeople who just wing it. You know?
So I've worked with many salespeople, and for me, the one thing that I can't put my finger on is the personality type, because I have seen introverted people become very good salespeople and extroverts equally good. So there isn't a personality type that becomes a better salesperson, is there?
Well, salespeople need to be those that can talk to other people, that they're not shy in putting an opinion forward. But it very much depends the type of sales job that they have. So we have different types of sales roles in the world today. You can be a salesperson where you have a territory and you have to go to all of the outlets or customers who are in that territory, and sometimes your role might be to just fulfill orders, replenishing their stock and so forth. But at other times, your role is to look for opportunities to improve their business and bring ideas to them. And sometimes you need to break down some walls to be able to get the customer on the same page, where they say, oh, I can see what you're saying now. Yes, we should do this. So those types of salespeople tend to be a little bit more outgoing. But then you have other salespeople whose entire career might be on the telephone, in call centers and such, and they may be a little bit more introverted, but given a script and the steps to say in response to what the customer says to them on the phone, they can be very, very good indeed.
And they can be very, very bad. Often I get a call from these call centers and you can hear them reading word by word. You can actually tell when they go to the next line.
That's right. There's something to be said, not to parrot things.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about cold calling. It's, you know, when you interview for salespeople, particularly when you have to break down new walls, you know, you need people who aren't afraid of rejection. So let's talk about the role of rejection and cold calling in this thing called the sales career.
Well, there's no such thing as rejection, really. Salespeople who are upbeat about their role, if they understand that they're selling the type of product or service where not everybody's going to want it, or at least not everybody's going to want it right now, for them, sometimes selling is a bit of a numbers game, where the more calls they make, they're going to find some success. So every rejection they have, the positive salespeople, if they've figured out the ratio, they might say to themselves, I know on average, every 10 calls I make, I'll get 9 no's, but I'll get 1 yes. And for them, every time they hear a no, it's one step towards yes. So they actually enjoy that. Very proactive salespeople also recognizing that they're not going to close every sales call that they go on. They try to get to no as fast as they can. So you see, they embrace no. No is their friend. No means if they can get the customer saying, I really don't have any intention, if they get to that faster, then they can save so much time and effort in hoping or wondering, maybe there's a sale, I'm really not sure, and then they don't find out until months later. They could have found out months earlier and spent more productive time with people who are more qualified to buy.
Nic, you spoke earlier about products and services. Is there a different approach to selling a product and a service?
Sometimes there is. If there's a product that everybody can look and touch and feel and they know about it, most of the time customers are very well educated on exactly what it is. You know, they've already looked at your product and your competitor's product, they know your prices. The sales process for them is very different to when somebody's selling a service that they can't actually put their hands around. You know, a service is something that leads to an outcome. It's a future result that people can't immediately see the value of. So the selling there is more about the vision of what the company will deliver to the buyer and what the buyer will experience as a benefit of that. So it's more of a conceptual sale rather than a product sale, and so there are slightly different techniques that are needed for that.
Nick, have you ever been in a situation where you've, going to make a sale and the potential client says, well, what makes you better than X company or this other person? How do you handle that, where you don't want to, run them down? You rather want to talk about what's good about you, but there's an insistence of making sure that you have to compare yourselves.
That's an excellent question. A lot of buyers will try to do that to put the salesperson on the back foot, to make them feel defensive. And salespeople who are not fully confident about what the differentiators are for their product or service will usually get a little bit nervous and say, oh, I need to find a way of making them like me more. And what do they normally do? They try to sweeten the deal by dropping their price in the hope that the objections or questions will go away. That's really not a good approach. Good salespeople tend to pre-qualify the customer as having a need that they can fulfill. That's you usually just don't sell to somebody whose needs you can't fulfill. So you know that there's a hook there. When they try to compare you with others and say what's the difference with you, if they've done a good enough job of asking questions and doing their homework about what's going on in the customer's world, and they talk about those things, it becomes more evident to the customer, you guys understand me, you understand my business, you understand my needs, and you've given me some ideas about how your product or service can fit those needs. Now, if the other sales guys that they've been talking to from competitors have just been trying to sell a product, that's a point of differentiation. That the seller isn't just trying to sell something and wash their hands and walk away. They've taken the time to understand how it will help, and they can show their intent is to bring value to the customer. So sometimes the salesperson themselves is the main point of differentiation. I mean, let's face it, we always have to sell ourselves and be liked. People buy from people before we can possibly sell our company or our product. They have to buy us first.
So give us a quick tip on how you would get somebody to like you in the first couple of seconds, couple of minutes of being introduced.
Have an interest-creating remark. It might be something topical, it might be something funny, but usually what people in business are looking for is something that's meaningful for them. Salespeople that can provoke the customer to some new ideas is somewhat useful. So let's say that they've been preparing to go to meet with a new customer, and they've Googled to look up that company's name, maybe their competitors' names, to see what's going on. Maybe they've seen something in the headlines. Some of their opening comments might be, so, how is this situation in the marketplace affecting you? Because surely it has some of the following impacts. There's something that must be on your mind right now. Immediately the customer is saying, hey, this isn't some sales guy just trying to sell me a product. They're actually a player in my market. They're somebody that's taken the time to understand me. They're curious about me. So the rapport begins on a different level, maybe not a social level, but a level of, oh, wait a second, this is somebody that's a player, somebody that's a business discussion that I can have here. Most buyers, they really miss that. They get so many salespeople coming along and saying, it's that time of month again, I'm just doing my milk round, how many more do you want? Oh, those salespeople are a dime a dozen, but the ones that actually take time to look and understand the customer's business, immediately they get some level of rapport. Social rapport can come later, but that's the foundation of trust and respect.
So last question, and on a completely different tack, let's talk about sales managers. The oft-heard thing is that you should never make your top sales guy the sales manager. Often you'll lose your best salesperson and you won't have a good manager. So when you're looking for a sales manager, what do you look for in that individual?
That's a huge issue for companies these days, especially if they've had a good salesperson who's been with the company 5, 10 years or so, and they want to reward them, and it becomes almost a rite of passage that the next top job, it's yours, you get the top job. And as you say, many times they take their best rep out of the field, and that rep doesn't actually know what made them successful, so they cannot explain it to others, and they can't coach it or inspect it or measure it or improve it. And so you end up with an entire sales team withering as a result of a great guy but in the wrong job. So a great sales manager is somebody that is not a lone wolf mentality. Many sellers are, right? They're a team player. They recognize that it's their job to improve results through improving the people beneath them, and they're a leader. You know, somebody that isn't somebody that would wing it as much as somebody who'd be quite methodical in knowing that this is what good looks like, and I can look at my reps and see if they're doing good openings, good questioning, good need-benefit analysis, good closing. And if they're not doing it, the manager, who's a process-thinking manager, can actually see it. If you get a great sales rep promoted into management, often they don't know what made them successful, and so they can't actually see it or coach it in others. So it's less being an eagle and more being a journeyman, you know, somebody that really knows the nuts and bolts of how things are put together. That's the type of guy you need as a manager.
Nic, very interesting. Thanks for coming through.
It's a great pleasure.
Exactly,
Thank you.
great point to end the discussion. Thank you so much, Nic.
You're welcome.
All right. Now, we asked Nic to join us again next week to look at the issue of support, companies supporting the sales teams and vice versa. Now, for the MTN Business Quick Tip of the Week.